will now come to order. Chair will ask the clerk to read a resolution.
House Resolution 11 by Representative O'Neill of the 146th. A resolution calling a joint session of the House of Representatives and the Senate for the purpose of hearing a message from the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, inviting each other Justice of the Supreme Court and each Judge of the Court of Appeals to be present at the joint session and for other purposes. Be it resolved by the General Assembly of Georgia that the Honorable Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is hereby invited to address a joint session of the House of Representatives and the Senate at 11 a.m. Wednesday, February 4th, 2015, in the Hall of the House of Representatives.
On behalf of the House of Representatives, I want to welcome all of you to the People's House. It is a great honor for me to recognize some of the important and special guests that we have. I want to begin by recognizing a colleague for many, many years. He and I served together in a long time ago. I corrected the error of my ways and came over to the House. He didn't, but he is a special friend and a great colleague. Please welcome to this House Georgia's Lieutenant Governor, Casey Cagle. It's an honor for me also to introduce another longtime colleague, a great leader in the legislature here in this state, the President Pro Tem of the Senate, David Schaefer. It's a great personal pleasure for me to introduce a partner, a great colleague, and a friend, the Speaker Pro Tem of this House, Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones. I am honored to introduce to you the judges of the Court of Appeals of Georgia. If y'all would please stand. And I am honored to introduce to you the justices of the Supreme Court of Georgia. If y'all would please stand. We are indeed honored to have the leadership in our judicial branch of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Georgia. Chief Justice Thompson is a native of Baldwin County, graduate of Emory University and the law school at Mercer University. His judicial career has spanned from the Recorder's Court for the city of Milledgeville to the Superior Court bench in the Ocmulgee Circuit, where he served as Chief Judge for 7 years. In 1994, he was appointed to the Supreme Court of Georgia, and in 2013 was made the Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court. He embodies the values of an Eagle Scout, which he is. He's married to a retired school teacher who was a speech therapist for the school system in Baldwin County. Chief Justice Thompson has been very active and has already left a legacy on the judiciary here in Georgia, working to reform the composition of our jury pools and also working to modernize the rules for recusal of judges. He is a great leader and a great Georgian. I hope you will help me welcome, for the state of the judiciary, the Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court, Chief Justice Hugh P. Thompson.
Lieutenant Governor Cagle, Speaker Ralston, President Pro Tem Schaefer, Speaker Pro Tem Jones, members of the General Assembly, my fellow judges, and I see quite a few of them here today, ladies and gentlemen. In a courtroom somewhere in Georgia this week, under the adoption laws of this state, a judge will declare a couple the legal parents of the young child they have brought into their family. In another courtroom, a judge will inform the owner of a small business that she is throwing out the lawsuit which threatened to close the doors of that business forever. In yet another courtroom, the parents of an adult son or daughter who was randomly shot and killed will get some closure when the judge announces that he is sentencing their child's killer to spend the rest of his life in prison. Each day in Georgia, our judges dispense justice. Each day, they study and review the laws of our nation and the laws of our state and apply them impartially to the facts of the case before them. Each day, when they look at the people in their courtroom, they consider that their decisions will change individuals' lives forever. Today, I speak for Georgia's judges in pledging to you that the state of Georgia's judiciary is sound and strong. It is strong because each day across this state, prosecutors, public defenders, sheriffs and sheriff's deputies, clerks, probation officers, and more than 1,400 Georgia judges go to work committed to fulfilling the mission of our courts. That mission is to protect individual rights and liberties, to uphold and interpret the rules of law, and to provide a forum for the peaceful resolution of disputes that is fair, impartial, and accessible to all. As your Chief Justice and head of the judicial branch of government, I'm grateful for the opportunity to report to you our achievements of this past year and the challenges that lie ahead. And I thank you for your ongoing support of the judiciary and of the partnership we have forged in our common goal of serving the people of this great state. After years of near crippling recession that threatened the livelihoods of too many Georgians, our economy is improving and the judiciary is beginning to regain its footing. After years of cutting costs, streamlining our organizations, and implementing furloughs, today we stand on firmer ground in maintaining the court's ability to fulfill our constitutional duties. As my predecessors and I have said before, our courts are a bargain for this state. The entire judicial branch of Georgia operates on less than 1% of the total spent by all of our state government. Look at it another way. For every $100 spent by Georgia's government, only 89 cents goes toward funding Georgia's judiciary. That's not even a full dollar. At the same time, our courts generate $93 million a year in revenue that is pumped back into the state's budget. What a value for Georgia's taxpayers. Despite our best efforts, however, challenges remain, notably for our probate courts. But with your help and support, we will meet those challenges. One such challenge is access to justice. Critical to the success of the judiciary is the public's trust and confidence. Too many hardworking Georgians believe that justice is out of their reach, either because it's too expensive or because of where they live. According to the National Center for Access to Justice, when it comes to access to attorneys, Georgia ranks in the bottom 10 states. Now, as I said last year, our judges continue to see a growing number of people coming to court with no lawyer and trying to represent themselves, particularly in divorce and other domestic relations cases. Superior Court Judge David Roper from the Augusta Judicial Circuit told me that in his court, 35% of litigants in domestic cases now represent themselves. When people are unrepresented in court, often their interests are not championed. Judges don't have the information they need to make just decisions, and the courts are burdened in time and resources. Last year, I told you there are 6 rural counties in Georgia where there are no lawyers, and another 20 where there are fewer than 5. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." We need your help in guaranteeing justice everywhere in Georgia. This year, under the leadership of Patrice Perkins Hooker, President of State Bar of Georgia, and under the sponsorship of Chairman Alex Atwood of Glenn County, legislation is being introduced to encourage private civil attorneys to work in severely underserved rural areas of Georgia. Under this legislation, a small number of law school graduates would receive annual assistance to help pay off their law school debts. In exchange, the attorneys would agree to work 5 years in those Georgia counties that desperately need help. This pilot project is just a small start, ladies and gentlemen, but it is a good start, and we ask for your backing. Another challenge that we continue to address is the need for alternatives to prison for nonviolent offenders. Thanks to Governor Deal, Lieutenant Governor Cagle, Speaker Ralston, and so many of you here, Georgia remains in the forefront as a model for criminal justice reform. One of the crowning achievements is the growth in specialty courts, also known as accountability courts or problem-solving courts. Georgia's drug, DUI, mental health, and other specialty courts save taxpayer dollars by avoiding the expense of incarceration. Most importantly, however, they help keep the public safe. Last year, more than 5,100 Georgians participated in specialty courts, which now number 116 across the state. Georgia's specialty courts are yet another bargain for Georgia. The success of these courts is told in individual stories. Chief Judge Brenda Weaver of the Appalachian Judicial Circuit recently told me of a man she came to know who had been abusing drugs and alcohol since he was 13 years old. He had been in and out of prison for 22 years, but last April, at the age of 55, this man graduated from Judge Weaver's drug court. After years of addiction and incarceration, today he has a full-time job, pays taxes, and is a contributing member of his community. I've heard similar stories from so many judges. In Georgia today, we have 7 veterans courts, with another 6 on the drawing board. Our veterans who have sacrificed everything for our freedom and our system of justice too often return from combat with brain injuries, post-traumatic stress disorder, mental health problems, and drug and alcohol dependencies, all of which can lead them into the criminal justice system. Last month, I had the honor of attending Veterans Court in Cobb County at the invitation of Superior Court Judge Reuben Green. Cobb County has more veterans than any other county in our state. Every Friday, Judge Green, who served as a United States Marine, presides over the court. Now let me tell you what I saw. I saw a team of professionals who met with Judge Green for an hour before court to discuss each veteran who would appear before the judge that morning. I saw those professionals' dedication to keeping these veterans out of jail by helping them get the treatment they need and by helping them find jobs and housing. I then moved into Judge Green's courtroom, where I saw him use the knowledge he had of each participant to praise them, to encourage them, or to sanction them if needed. One of the beauties of veterans courts is that all the participants receive veterans benefits, which means that much of their treatment is funded by federal tax dollars instead of state or county funds. Also unique is something else I saw firsthand. As each veteran approached the bench in Judge Green's courtroom, he or she was accompanied by a mentor, one of 25 veterans who have volunteered to be paired with a court participant and stand behind them and alongside these men and women to give them every chance to succeed. Judge Green calls these mentors the real heroes, and he's always looking for more volunteers. As Judge Green said, we owe these young men and women whom we sent off to war a second chance and the treatment they need for the issues caused by their service to our country. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce to you Judge Reuben Green. Judge Green. I'm also proud to introduce to you some of the United States veterans, the heroes, if you will, who volunteer in Judge Green's Veterans Court. Would you, ladies and gentlemen, please stand? Thank you for what you do. Now, looking ahead to the future, our courts, like all of government, must be prepared for the growth in our population. For the first time, Georgia's population has surpassed 10 million. We're now the 8th most populous state, just behind Ohio. Like other states, Georgia is experiencing a growth in our elderly population. I believe this is one of the greatest challenges our courts face, particularly our probate courts, who lack the staff and resources they need to deal with more and more seniors who have no family to support them. In Bibb County, Judge Sarah Harris of the probate court reports her belief that the increase in the number of homeless people who come before her is directly tied to the growth in elderly population. Judge William Seff of Macon worries about the significant increase he sees in the abuse, neglect, and exploitation of the elderly. In a letter to me, he wrote, "Our probate courts are going to be overwhelmed and ill-equipped in both judicial and clerical resources." In another letter, the president of the Council of Probate Judges, Judge Chase Daughtry of Cook County, said he wants members of the General Assembly to understand the often urgent and tragic human cases probate judges face daily. He wrote, "We watched the elderly man transition from independence to a ward of the state with no family or friends to care for him during his final days on this earth. With that, our hearts ache and cry for the greatest generation." Members of the General Assembly, going forward, our probate courts will need your help and your support. Now, at the Supreme Court of Georgia, the highest court of our state, the number of appeals filed to date is nearly 40% higher this year over last. Although we are rebuilding with your help, we continue to have fewer staff than we did more than a decade ago. Please know, though, that we appreciate your support in giving to us the building facilities, personnel, and resources we need to handle the people's problems and the people's business. I said last year I said last year that our state-paid judges deserve a raise. I'll say it again this year. We've not received a base pay raise for more than 15 years. For the sake of attracting and retaining the highest qualified judges at all levels, both trial and appellate, we must be properly compensated based on a pay scale that makes sense. As we prepare for the future, we share with the governor and all of you our pride in Georgia being named the best place to do business. To maintain that position, our courts must be ready and able to quickly respond and resolve business disputes. One of our greatest success stories is the business court, created in Fulton County under the leadership of Judge John Gover, and which may soon be replicated in Gwinnett and Cobb counties. That court provides prompt resolution of complex commercial litigation by a panel of experienced judges. Going forward, we'd like to see more of these courts in our state. Georgia is now home to more than 3,600 foreign businesses from more than 60 countries. In the past decade, foreign companies accounted for 20% of the metropolitan Atlanta new business activity. With the growing globalization of business, Georgia has become a nationally recognized leader in the international legal market through the adoption of rules that makes this state more attractive to foreign lawyers. I'm also proud of Georgia's alternative dispute resolution system. Its purpose is to help people resolve their disputes in less time and for less money by not having to go to court. Each year, 70% of the cases that go through the alternative dispute resolution process are settled, and that results in nearly 25,000 fewer civil cases in our courts. As a gateway to justice, our courtrooms are the epitome of democracy. But as our population grows, we're also growing more diverse. Our judges must reflect our population. The perception of justice is almost as important as justice itself. Let me say that again. The perception of justice is almost as important as justice itself. Last month, our state reached two important milestones. On January 7, Judge Dean Bucci of the Paulding Judicial Circuit was sworn in as the first Hispanic Superior Court judge. The following week, I had the honor of presiding over the ceremonial swearing-in of Judge Ming Lim of the Tallapoosa Judicial Circuit. It was indeed an historic occasion for our state, not only because Judge Lim is Georgia's first Asian American Superior Court judge, but also because of the extraordinary story of how he got here. Judge Lim didn't grow up with a childhood like yours and mine. He was born in Cambodia just before the takeover by the Khmer Rouge. He was taken from his mother when he was 4 years old and placed in a camp with other young children. For 4 years, from sunup until sundown, he and the other children were marched to the rice fields where they worked all day pulling weeds. They had no toys, no medicine, no education, and no parents. After the Vietnamese liberated Cambodia, the Lim family was relocated as refugees to rural Bremen, Georgia. They spoke little English, but Ming, who was 9 years old, learned the language quickly and became his parents' interpreter. The community embraced the Lim family. The Baptist Church of Bremen provided a house for them and hired his parents as custodians. His teachers took him out to school and on weekends to Walmart to introduce to him to things he had never seen and words he had never heard. People anonymously contributed money so he could go on trips with the other school children. Ming Lim would go on to graduate as valedictorian of his class from Bremen High School and win scholarships to Emory University and the Mercer School of Law. He eventually worked in the law firm of the late, great Speaker of this House, Thomas B. Murphy. But after 15 years of practicing law, Ming Lim decided he could give back more to his community as a judge. From his early childhood in a country where there was no system of justice, he developed a passion for ensuring that all people who would enter his courtroom would be guaranteed justice. So last year, Ming Lim ran for an open seat in the Tallapoosa Judicial Circuit, and once again, the community that he had come to love embraced him and elected him as their judge. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Judge Ming Lim and his parents C and On Lim. Judge Lim and the other judges I've mentioned here today represent our state's future. They represent the many judges who embody the values Georgians hold dear: humility, integrity, hard work, courage, resiliency, love of country, and love of community. Georgians deserve judges of this high caliber. Georgians deserve a diverse judiciary made up of the best legal minds that instill confidence in our judicial system. And they deserve a justice system that ensures fair and prompt access to our courts for all Georgians. Thank you to all of our judges. Thank all of you in the General Assembly for your support of the judiciary. And thank you for having me here today. May God bless you and the great state of Georgia.
Well done.
Okay.
Well done. Good job. That's a great score.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice Thompson. At this time, I'll ask the doorkeeper to escort the justices of the Supreme Court of Georgia and the judges of the Court of Appeals from the chamber.